Oh, I didn't keep up with NFL free agency as much as I wanted to. I'm sorry about that. NCAA March Madness film study was going on, so I wasn't able to get to the NFL free agency. But I have researched and done all 32 teams and all their major moves, and I'm going to go over them right now, but division by division. Starting with the AFC, and I'm going to start with the AFC, all the four divisions in the AFC, and then I'm going to go to NFC, and then I'm going to talk about the implications of the teams that do well, and I have a top 10 free agency rankings, so I'm going to get into it. So, starting off with the AFC East and the New England Patriots. The Patriots lost a lot of offensive players. They lost Dion Lewis, Nate Solder, traded Brandon Cooks. Everyone is against Bill Belichick on the New England Patriots right now. Gronkowski wasn't committing long term, and now Gronkowski says he's coming. Tom Brady actually hasn't signed an extension, and he hasn't also committed to playing in 2018 because all of them are, like I said, they're going against Bill Belichick. They don't like the Belichick system. They don't like that he benched Malcolm Butler, the Super Bowl hero, because of taking drugs. Because as Martellus Bennett has said in the past, like, hey, I smoked weed all the time. So anyway, getting to the moves for the Patriots, they signed Rex Burkhead for 3 years, $9.75 million. If you remember, Rex Burkhead is the guy that accidentally broke Tom Brady's finger in practice. I really, really like Rex Burkhead. He's a really good player, and he played solid last year, got a lot of touchdowns in big games. Then they got Jeremy Hill, another running back from the Cincinnati Bengals. Jeremy Hill is a nice downhill runner, very good guy, very tough runner. So this is a big pickup for them. And, they like to use their runners as pass catchers as well. So that's a 1 year, $1.5 million. Cordelia Patterson from the Raiders. He's a very dangerous return man. He can, get to return punts for touchdowns. And now that Amendola is gone and Edelman is finally coming back healthy, they don't know what to expect from Edelman, so they went out and got Cordell Patterson from the Raiders, a very good return man, a good receiver as well. He's okay, a little bit inconsistent as a receiver, but he plays well. They also went out and got Jordan Matthews from the Buffalo Bills. Jordan Matthews, if you remember, he played a year with Carson Wentz, and he played very, very well. And he was the most consistent receiver on the Eagles. And he didn't really play much last year with the Bills, or he did, but I guess Tyrod Taylor didn't really use him properly. So now he's going to a system with a good quarterback, and I think he's going to be a really good receiver with the Patriots. So I think that's a good signing for the Patriots. Good job for the Patriots, getting some solid guys in here. They re-signed Matthew Slater, their special team specialist, for 2 years. Matthew Slater's getting old, obviously, but Bill Belichick likes him. Special team specialist, like I said. He really knows what goes on in the special teams, and he helps, pin the ball deep, and he also helps in punting coverage, kicking coverage, all sorts of things, and he's a specialist, so he absolutely helps with that. So good 2 year deal. Danny Shelton, I covered this right before March Madness. He got traded to the Patriots from the Browns. Defensive tackle, very good guy. He was okay on the Browns. I think in the Patriots he'll thrive. He'll do very well. Like I said, the Patriots are looking for young guys. They re-signed linebacker Marquise Flowers. They did get rid of a lot of linebackers in the past, traded them for money, got rid of all these guys, but Marquise Flowers is a solid guy. So good signing for the Patriots here. Marquise Flowers keeping one of their linebackers, Jason McCourty, who's also a very experienced cornerback in that Patriots system. Came back, got from the Browns via trade, and then Nate Ebner, 2 years, $4.5 million. He's a good, solid safety, Nate Ebner. So good job to bring back a lot of players. The Patriots lost a lot of players, so I don't know if this was necessarily a good free agency for the Patriots, but they are getting Edelman and Gronkowski and Brady back. So I think it'll be business as usual for the New England Patriots. No really major signings here. They just lost a lot of their good players, and they just re-signed a lot of good players as well. So it's Bill Belichick. I think they'll hum accordingly. Obviously, the defense needs to go address that in the draft. They have 2 first-round draft picks, so I think they'll address the defense and maybe get a receiver or a quarterback to satisfy Bill Belichick. A lot of draft rumors floating around. But the Patriots did a good job, re-signing their guys and sort of getting them back to a ground. So now the second team in the AFC East, the Buffalo Bills. They didn't really do much. Okay, they got A.J. McCarron for 2 years, $10 million, in case they don't get a quarterback in this draft, which I predict that they might trade up to the second pick in the NFL draft. But if they don't, they got A.J. McCarron as an insurance for 2 years, $10 million. Then you got Jeremy Curley from the New York Jets. Good receiver, solid guy. He'll get you some catches. He'll get some touchdowns. So for 1 year. Also, offensive tackle Marshall Newhouse for a year. Marshall Newhouse is a solid protector. He'll help you very well. So good job. They lost Bruno Giacchomini, so they needed a replacement, and they got Marshall Newhouse. Star Lateo, 5 years, $50 million from the Carolina Panthers. Star Lateo is a very good defensive tackle. He plays at a high level for the Panthers. He was a part of their run to the Super Bowl. He's a good run stopper. He's gonna get you good tackles and good stops, and he'll get sacked every once in a while. And then Vontae Davis from the Indianapolis Colts on a 1 year, $5 million deal. So they really upgraded the defense for the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, not the Indianapolis Colts, sorry. The Buffalo Bills really upgraded their defense. Played really, they got the defense. The defense played really well last year. So upgrading an already good defense, and then maybe developing A.J. McCarron, using him as a bridge in case they do not get a quarterback in this year's draft. Because this year's draft, top 4, not really many other polished guys. You got Josh Allen, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen. So maybe the Buffalo Bills are thinking, hey, maybe we'll put A.J. McCarron in there. We go for quarterback next year. If we cannot trade up, I hope they trade up. I project that they'll trade up to the second pick because I feel like the Giants like Saquon Barkley, and they could potentially drop down for more draft picks, which obviously sounds very crazy, but don't count it out. So now the Miami Dolphins also in the AFC East. Obviously they have Jay Cutler in at quarterback because Ryan Tannehill was hurt for the whole year. Got hurt in practice. Brock Osweiler signed on for a 1 year deal as a backup, so that probably means Jay Cutler is out on his way. 1 year, $10 million. The trial session with Adam Gase this year did not work for him at all. They got Frank Gore 1 year. Frank Gore was very solid in San Francisco under Alex Smith. In Indianapolis, he's underwhelming with Andrew Luck, and he just never came back to form. So now then you got Danny Amendola from the New England Patriots. They call him Playoff Amendola. He obviously got a lot of injuries, so I think 2 years, $10 million for Danny Amendola is a big contract. I think the Patriots wouldn't have paid him that. The Patriots don't like they don't like to pay players, and B, Danny Amendola just isn't worth 2 years, $10 million for just for the playoffs. I mean, that's the only time he really plays. I feel like in my perspective, he's a very good guy. Injury risks, a lot of other things going on with him too much. So 2 years, $10 million. Not $10 million, $12 million. I still feel like is a high price for him. Josh Sitton, a good guard. 2 years, $15 million. He'll do a good job protecting. He's very solid. I think he's from the Packers, but I'm not sure. Robert Quinn via trade with the Los Angeles Rams. This is just a classic case of the Los Angeles Rams not wanting to overpay for a player. So they said, you know what, Robert Quinn, we're going to trade you, and we're not going to pay you, and we're going to get something back for you. So that's actually very smart of the LA Rams to let go of Robert Quinn at that time. Also, they signed William Hayes to a 1 year deal, and cornerback Walton Aikens, who was on the Colts, and he played very, he's a solid guy. He's okay. He's not great, but he's solid. He'll come in. He'll get a couple of stops for you. 2 years, $2.7 million. So now the New York Jets, the last team in this division, and they also need a quarterback, so they did trade up with the Indianapolis Colts in the draft. So the New York Jets actually made a major haul in free agency. They re-signed Josh McCown for a 1 year, $10 million deal. Teddy Bridgewater got signed from the Vikings for a 1 year, $5 million deal. Isaiah Crowell from the Cleveland Browns got signed on for 3 years, $12 million. Thomas Rawls from the Seahawks. He had his games. I mean, he didn't play great, obviously, because he didn't really elevate the Seahawks, but the Seahawks were pretty good with him. With him running the ball from time to time. Terrell Pryor, who had a good season with the Browns a couple years ago. Dude hasn't really refound his magic. He's a receiver, but he used to be a quarterback, so I guess he's still trying to sort of adapt. Andre Roberts, receiver. Good receiver, agrees to a deal. Charles Johnson, good job for him, agreeing to a deal. Defensive end Spencer Long, he's pretty good, he knows his way around the league by now, so there's probably an experienced signing. Same with Xavier Cooper. Kevin Pierre-Louis as a linebacker, 2 years, $16 million. Dude's obviously a solid guy. Kevin Minter is also very solid, agrees to a deal. Trumaine Johnson, 5 years, $72.5 million. He was on the Los Angeles Rams, and Trumaine Johnson was also another player that they really didn't want to pay. After the acquisitions of Talib and Peters, you don't really need Trumaine Johnson there anymore, so I guess the Rams sort of just let him walk. Morris Claiborne, From the Cowboys, 1 year, $7 million deal. And then Terrence Brooks, safety, 2 years. And then they got kicker from the Washington Redskins, Cairo Santos, for 1 year, $7 million. So the New York Jets, like I said, made a major haul at other positions, and they also got an extra quarterback in case, they get the quarterback they get doesn't, work out for them, and they have to sort of think about other things and think about what they need to do with their future. So good job to the New York Jets for doing a good job there. So AFC East, when you look at it in the big picture, the Patriots lost a lot of their major players, but they're still the Patriots, and they re-signed a lot of good guys, and they'll sign a bunch of other guys that'll fit their system, and so they did a good job. The Bills, they got to go to the draft, get a quarterback, or else they're not going to compete in this division. The Dolphins, they're still a couple years away. The Dolphins, I don't know what the Dolphins are going to do. Not a couple years away, a lot of years away. The Dolphins are just trash right now. They're absolutely trash, and it's never going to change. The New York Jets get a quarterback. Their defense is solid. Their play solid. I think they'll have another solid 7-9 season. They weren't even 7-9. They're 5-11. You're 7-9. So I think the Patriots will easily win this division again. So good job in free agency for the Patriots to sort of stay tacked, keep the core of the team, let the other guys go. Deion Lewis, Nate Solder, Brandon Cooks, let some of the other guys go. Kept the core of the team, kept Belichick together, and that's just good for them. So moving on to the AFC North, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Starting off here in the AFC North, they didn't really make any moves. Le'Veon Bell kept threatening to sit out with the franchise tag, and I guess it never worked. I guess the threat didn't work because the Steelers didn't buy it, and we didn't buy it, and it just wasn't something that was worth buying. It sucked because nobody bought what Le'Veon Bell was saying. So the Steelers still have him. So Fitzgerald, Toussaint for a year, Stephen Ridley for a year, wide receiver Justin Hunter for a year, another receiver for Big Ben Roethlisberger to throw to, John Bostic for 2 years, good linebacker. Morgan Burnett is a very good safety. He played alongside Dom Capers in the Green Bay, and Nate Berhe agrees to a good deal. So the Steelers didn't really make many moves. I expect them to make some defensive moves in the draft because of how they got burned by Blake Bortles and the Jacksonville Jaguars in the AFC divisional playoff game. That just wasn't good to see at all. And I think only defensively. Offensively, you got Le'Veon Bell, Martavis Bryant. They just can't miss that chemistry offensively. Defensively, they need some new guys, and they need a backup for Ryan Shazier in case Ryan Shazier goes down again, or if it's a potential that Ryan Shazier doesn't play again because of the severity of that injury that happened earlier. Obviously, very bad for Ryan Shazier. I feel bad for him. He's a good guy, but what are you going to do? Also, the Baltimore Ravens didn't really make any major moves. They did sign a backup quarterback in RG3 for a year, Michael Crabtree, 3 years, $21 million. Michael Crabtree, obviously from the Oakland Raiders with Derek Carr. Derek Carr is a good player, and he throws very, very well to Michael Crabtree, and I had a little bit of a connection. Michael Crabtree obviously used to be on the 49ers, if you remember the whole Sherman versus Crabtree thing. Crabtree's a good receiver for Joe Flacco, but I don't think Joe Flacco gets it done. I mean, And then another receiver for Joe Flacco is John Brown from the Arizona Cardinals, who did very, very well in that Bruce Arians system with Carson Palmer, and he got signed to a 1 year, $5 million deal. I just don't like the fact that the Ravens signed a bunch of receivers, and they just need a quarterback. So I don't know about Joe Flacco. Maybe go for Lamar Jackson in the draft if they can. If he's still available, I would definitely take Lamar Jackson if I'm the Ravens, because I don't see Joe Flacco really changing as a quarterback and really being able to blossom into something. So I think Joe Flacco is what he is. Mediocre. He's okay. He needs a big defense to support him, and I just don't think the Ravens have the salary cap or any sort of thing to really help them offensively, and defensively, they're meh. I mean, they were better with Ray Lewis and stuff. They're kind of meh now. So we'll see what happens. I don't really think that the Ravens made any moves that are going to, boom, warrant any, fireworks. The Cincinnati Bengals also didn't make any major moves at all. They actually got rid of A.J. McCarron, which is bad because now they don't have insurance for Andy Dalton if he ever goes down. Andy Dalton's a piece of crap if you ask me. But he's just not a good quarterback. He's not a good quarterback. So, Tyler Eifert got extended for 1 year, $5.5 million, which is good. He's a good tight end, big guy, catches good balls. I don't know what you can really do when Kenny Dalton's terrible. And they did I guess they signed Kevin Hogan as their insurance for 3 years, $7.95 million, which is okay. I mean, Kevin Hogan is a solid quarterback in college, but like I don't. Man, the Bengals are frustrating, man. They just are. They're just that team, man. They're just that team. You just look at them every year. They somehow suck. Every fucking year. They are absolutely terrible. And it's just, you can't do anything. They just suck. Poor Marvin Lewis, man. He had to coach with them. Anyway, getting to the best team in the division, the Cleveland Browns. I'm joking. But they did actually make some major moves. I'll give it to them. I mean, they traded for Tyrod Taylor. They traded for Jarvis Landry, who just signed a 5-year, $75.5 million contract, which I think is way too much money for Jarvis Landry. Help me God. Jarvis Landry just got that extension. Woo! That is just way too much for Jarvis Landry, man. Woo, that is just, ugh. I do not like that contract at all. Carlos Hyde got signed on for 3 years, $15 million. And then Jeff Janis got signed on. And then Darren Fells for 3 years, $12 million. And that's just how that's going to, work for Darren Fells. That's just, it is what it is, man. Like, the Browns signed, the players that they needed, and they got it done. Like, they just went out in free agency and they said, all right, we need to cut some of these players, and we need to keep some of these players. And, that is what it is. So, good job to the Cleveland Browns for getting the job done and, sort of going into free agency with that mindset, like I said. Like, hey, we need to cut some players, and we need to make our salary cap better so we can at least look like we're playing well and get a quarterback, at least try this rebuilding process for a while and see what happens. And I'm also sorry if there's a buzzing sound in the middle. Something was probably just vibrating from an ESPN notification or something. I'm sorry about that. As it happens from time to time. Anyway, AFC South. Moving on here. Jacksonville Jaguars. A lot of receivers actually left the Jaguars, and it's kind of sad because the Jaguars are a good team, and they have to build on last year's success. But a lot of people just left the Jaguars. Drastic changes here, not defensively, but offensively, a lot of guys left in terms of receivers. So they got Cody Kessler from the Cleveland Browns via trade. I don't know why they did that. That was a bad move. Come on, man. Really? Cody Kessler? You have got to be kidding me. Cody, whatever. They did re-sign Marquise Lee for 4 years, $34 million. Dante Moncrief from the Indianapolis Colts under Andrew Luck and Jacoby Brissett last year. Dante Moncrief was solid. I like him. It's a good receiver. Austin Seferian-Jenkins for 2 years, $10 million. He's from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And so is Niles Paul, 2 years, $4.75 million. Niles Paul is a good player. He played well, but he did get injured. A special teams guy from Nebraska. Austin Seferian-Jenkins played well. He had some of his moments, but he was, I guess Jameis Winston didn't really use him well. DJ Hayden from the Raiders, he's trash. I'm sorry, he just is. It's just he was terrible. 3 years, $14 million. I don't know about that. Ugh, not a good deal for the Jags. It's not a good deal at all. So now the Tennessee Titans. I really like what they did in the offseason. You know why I like what the Tennessee Titans did? Because they knew what was wrong with their team, and they went out and they corrected some of it, and they said, here, we are going to build around our young guy, Marcus Mariota, and we're going to, try to get him some offensive and defensive pieces so he doesn't have to do everything. Obviously, Blaine Gabbert as a backup isn't a great decision, but they did a good job in the rest of their field. Dion Lewis, 4 years, $20 million. Michael Campanaro, receiver, 1 year. Josh Klein, offensive guard, 4 years, $26 million. Kevin Pamphlin, 1 year. Xavier Zuafila agrees to a deal. Benny Logan from the Philadelphia Eagles, defensive tackle, to go under that defensive coaching by the Titans. Good guy. Dick LeBeau, D coordinator. So I think Benny Logan's going to really thrive in this system. So is Will Compton. Malcolm Butler, 5 years, $61.25 million. Super Bowl hero. Wasn't really appreciated in New England at all. New England cast him aside. They said, fuck you. They said, get out of here. And it didn't work. So, what are you gonna, do? You know what I mean? Malcolm Butler smoked weed before the Super Bowl, and he was like, alright, you can't play no more because you smoked weed. And that's understandable. So, I think the Tennessee Titans did a really good job in free agency, building around the pieces, and it is what it is. You know what I mean? You can't, they can't build a team too much because they can't also use too much salary cap space because they also want to go to the draft and build there. So, the Titans, like I say, they're a team for the future. So, just keep building, and then when Tom Brady retires, maybe there'll be a window open. But like I said, they got to put the ball in Mariota's hands a little bit more, or it's going to get tough for them. Anyway, Indianapolis Colts, they didn't really make any moves. I think they're waiting for the draft, and they did trade down to get more picks, which could mean they're probably targeting a running back or someone on defense rather than a backup quarterback for Andrew Luck. So they signed Christine Michael, who had his moments with the Seahawks. He wasn't primary running back for the Seahawks. I don't really know how he's going to fit into this system at all. Ryan Grant, receiver from the Packers, 1 year, $5 million deal. Good job for Ryan Grant. He's a solid guy. He really knows what he's doing in terms of veteran presence. Eric Ebron, who has been completely disappointing with the Detroit Lions since his draft day. And I think he's actually a pretty good weapon for Andrew Luck if he knows how to use him properly. So I want to see how Eric Ebron will perform with Andrew Luck in that system. He's getting 2 years, $15 million. And then linebacker Najee Goody agrees to a deal. Najee Goody is okay. He's a solid player. He comes in, he gets his business done, and it's over, That's what I like about Najee Goody. He's pretty good in that, just made a pun, by the way, damn. But, yeah, he's pretty good in business. So the Colts don't make any big moves. I think the Colts are waiting for the draft. Be patient moves, so good job to the Colts staying patient here, knowing that when Andrew Luck comes back and they get some good draft picks, they will be fine. The Houston Texans also, with Deshaun Watson's injury, J.J. Watt's injury last year, completely derailed their season. So they also decided, okay, we'll be a little patient. They did sign Aaron Colvin from the Jaguars, 4 years, $34 million. Sammy Coates off waivers. Jonathan Joseph re-upped for 2 years, $10 million. And then they went out and Tyrann Mathieu got released by the Arizona Cardinals. And Tyrann Mathieu got signed, the Honey Badger, the safety, very good guy. I don't know why he got released. To a 1 year, $7 million deal. So that upgrades the defense for the Houston Texans, who have obviously shown out last year, and they played very well for a team that went that record until Deshaun Watson got injured. Then they got screwed. But before that, they had played very, very well offensively and defensively. They'd shown potential and promise, and I really felt like they could have been a contender had they been able to stay healthy and close out some of the games. And they just couldn't. But they could easily flip it around. I feel like the Texans are that team that they have so much potential, and they don't know how to use it. And I feel like Deshaun Watson could tap that potential as a quarterback, because I feel like what they've really needed all these days is a franchise QB, and they've finally gotten one. So good job to the Houston Texans for also staying patient in the free agency. In this division, I think the winner in free agency was the Tennessee Titans for going out, obviously making their moves and helping themselves. They're like, okay, we need offensive moves, we need defensive moves, and we need to make a mixture of both, and we need to make sure that we get Mariota more help, and they did that. So good job to the Tennessee Titans. Other teams sort of stayed a little patient. The Jaguars lost a lot of pieces, so I'd say probably they're the biggest loser in terms of receivers. Okay, so AFC West, the Kansas City Chiefs are the team that made the move at quarterback with Alex Smith gone now, and Patrick Mahomes is the future there in Kansas City. because of their trade. I think it was a little bit before this. It was even during the NFL playoffs. They just shipped Alex Smith for Kirk Cousins, and now their future looks completely different. So they signed two quarterbacks to back them up. Chad Henne, 2 years, $6.7 million, and Matt McGloin, 1 year. So Matt McGloin, he played a playoff game and got killed by the Houston Texans a couple years ago. It's just how it goes, man. You can't play a playoff game with Matt McGloin. Sammy Watkins, 3 years, $48 million. I don't know how that's going to go. Sammy Watkins was okay with the Rams. He didn't do a great job. I mean, he was a good player. I just don't think he did like an extraordinary job with Jared Goff. I think it was more of just Jared Goff being a good player. So, and then you got DeAnthony Thomas for $880,000. He's a pretty good player. They also got Anthony Hitchens from the Dallas Cowboys. He's a good linebacker guy. 5 years, $45 million, and then obviously from that Alex Smith trade, they got Kendall Fuller, who's a really, really good young piece. That's nice to know, getting some good young pieces, building the team. The Kansas City Chiefs, like I said, they're trying to build a little bit for the future right now, and they're seeing the future before their eyes because they're now going to put their offensive keys in the hands of young Patrick Mahomes from Texas Tech, and we'll see how that goes. The Chiefs did a lot in free agency to try to set up their future a little bit because they realized, hey, what we're doing right now isn't working. We're not winning games. We're not doing well. So we'll see if it's a coach thing or if it's a system thing or if it's a player thing. So Kansas City Chiefs giving themselves a fresh start to try and see what is wrong. So the Los Angeles Chargers, they didn't really do anything. Because here's the thing. The Los Angeles Chargers were maybe 2 kicks away from a playoff berth. They missed a kick against the Dolphins earlier in the year, and they missed a game-tying kick, 2 kicks, actually, against the Denver Broncos. That could have won them the game and could have ultimately sent them to the playoffs in the 6th instead of the Buffalo Bills. The San Diego Chargers played really, really well at the end. I mean, San Diego, they're all still San Diego in our heart. But I guess Los Angeles Chargers, now at the StubHub Center, are all still in our heart, and they're always that team that I feel like every year you feel like they're going to get over the hump, and they never do. And I don't know why, because they're really good, and they have a lot of untapped potential. So, anyway, they went out and signed Geno Smith to back up Phillip Rivers, and Virgil Green for 3 years, $8.6 million. Mike Pouncey for 2 years, $15 million. Mike Pouncey's a little injury prone, so we'll see how that goes. They also stole Caleb Sturgis, who was injured all of last year, which is why the Eagles had to use Jake Elliott. Caleb Sturgis up there for 2 years, $4.5 million. Obviously, the Chargers have kicking problems. They miss a lot of kicks, and obviously, like I said earlier, they were maybe like 2 kicks away from a playoff berth, which really, really sucks because that is so close to being in the playoffs in the NFL, and they just missed it. So that really, really stinks. I mean, damn. 2 kicks away for the Chargers. So, like I said, they stood packed. They didn't really want to do anything to screw up that little chemistry that they had. So the Oakland Raiders, they made up some moves, but it was more of like a John Gruden style moves. You know what I mean? Like, they made those moves to like suit John Gruden and help the coach, sort of assess the talent. So they went out and got E.J. Manuel to back up Derek Carr and Josh Johnson, who was supposed to be like this big quarterback, and I guess he just never happened. Like, it just never happened for him. Doug Martin, 1-year deal as a running back. I think he's a very solid player. I think he's a great signing, and he's an Oakland guy. So Doug Martin, obviously Marshawn Lynch's run is coming to an end. I'm sorry, man. We loved you, but you didn't play well. No production. He didn't do anything on offense. Jordy Nelson, 2 years, $15 million. This guy's a little injury prone. Obviously, the Packers didn't want to have to pay him, so they got rid of him. They said, you know what? We don't want this anymore. He's too injury prone. I know Aaron Rodgers loves him, but it's just not worth it anymore, so let's get rid of him. And then Dwayne Harris, he was a kickoff specialist for the Cowboys before. He kickoff specialist for the Giants last year, and now he moves to agree to a deal with the Los Angeles Raiders. Lee Smith, who's been a tight end there for a while, 3-year deal, good job. Breno Giacomini, who comes over offensive tackle who comes over from the New York Jets, comes over here. He's a very solid guy in New York, so I think he'll do a good job here. Tahir Whitehead from the Cowboys, 3 years, $18 million deal. Good linebacker, dude is very solid. He holds it up there. Emmanuel Lemur agrees to the deal. He's a pretty good, solid player as well. Kyle Wilber, if you've ever seen the Cowboys defense, he's one of those guys who's always solid and always putting his production. He would be alongside Sean Lee on that line. Rashawn Melvin from the Jacksonville Jaguars, a 1 year, $6.5 million deal. Leon Hall from the Cincinnati Bengals agrees to a deal. Nobody wants him to be on the Bengals for too long. Reggie Nelson, coming from the Bengals as well. Good safety. Dude's very tough. Hits hard. Plays well. Plays with passion. And then Marcus Gilchrist, safety. 1 year, $4 million. So, good job for the Oakland Raiders, sort of getting the players that suited John Gruden, and they did release Marquette King, punter. So John Gruden is sending very early messages to the team, like, hey, you know, you guys can have fun, but you guys need to, like, make sure that fun has winning in there, and you guys need to be about business, because football is a business, and you guys really need to be focused and in on this team, which is good for John Gruden, because he's really showing these kids, hey, this is what I need, and this is what I want, so show me. So good job for John Gruden. You know, he's setting the tone early for these young guys, and I don't know if this is going to work or backfire, but we'll just have to wait and see, and it's fun. It's fun to see John Gruden sort of do this to the team, and he was a very successful coach off of this earlier, so we'll see if this approach works in Oakland for him. To the Denver Broncos, they're also looking like they're going to go for the draft, but if not, they got Case Keenum as insurance for 2 years, $36 million, $18 million a year. Played very, very well with the Vikings last year. Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs. They were projected to go to the Super Bowl after the Eagles lost Carson Wentz, but the Eagles were completely driven last year, somehow won the Super Bowl. Marquette King, they picked him up, 3 years, $7 million. He was on waiver wire after the Oakland Raiders dropped him, and got picked up by the Denver Broncos. A very fun punter, a guy who brings a lot of charisma, a guy who really helps, really set the tone in terms of pace, and, you know, he really sets the momentum. So I think 2 very good signings by the Broncos. Despite them staying patient, they also decided to use a little bit of money, and they went and got some good players for themselves. So John Elway still sort of proving that he's a good GM. I like John Elway. The Broncos sort of trying to get some offensive pieces and trying to see what they can do this upcoming season with them there. So AFC West, I think the Kansas City Chiefs really set themselves up for the future. But in terms of free agency winners, I'd give it to the Denver Broncos because of who they signed. If Case Keenum does come in and plays like the player he was last year, and Marquette King punts the way he punted last year, great team. I think Denver Broncos easily win this because they also have a top 10 pick, and they could easily develop them. And the defense is very, very good. So they're set in terms of if their players can show up and play well. And I think they will play very well to a certain extent. Play very well. So I think the Broncos win win the division, ranking. And I think the Chiefs are second because they made a lot of good moves. Obviously, Alex Smith is getting older, so they drafted him. They got rid of him. They got some good players off of him, and now they get to build around rocket arm Patrick Mahomes. I think the biggest loser would be the Chargers for not making any really major moves, and some guys, Eric Weddle, did get out of there. That was last year, but the Chargers didn't really make any moves. Maybe they should have made more moves. They got a kicker. Like I said, they decided to stay patient. So good job for them. And that is the AFC side of the free agency. And now I'm going to go into the NFC. So the NFC started with the NFC East. So we're going to start with the Super Bowl champions, the Philadelphia Eagles, okay? They won the Super Bowl with Nick freaking Foles. Now, I know they lost a lot of their core last year, but that's just how it works sometimes. If you're a Super Bowl winning team, you're gonna lose your core, and you're gonna lose some of the main players that you want, you want to keep. Because I feel like some of the players on the Eagles, they outplayed their value, and they really showed, like, hey, we're gonna, play really, really well, because they were all driven to win a Super Bowl last year. So they were all, super driven, and they did a really good job in terms of how they, projected themselves, and how they were able to, be like, hey, we are good players too, and it is time for us to come out and prove that we can do this. And they did. They won the Super Bowl, and a lot of guys ended up leaving because a lot of them, like I said, they outplayed their value, and they wanted more money, and you can only have so much salary cap space. But this is, remember, like I said in the beginning, this is a team that won with Nick freaking Foles. So don't underestimate this team in any way or form, or it will come back to bite you in the face. And that's what the Eagles... They sort of did a good job of countering what they lost, but I think they're still gonna lose. Like Trey Burton and Patrick Robinson, they're gonna feel those ones. And if had they traded Nick Foles, they would definitely have felt that one. Because I know Carson Wentz is coming back, and so if Carson Wentz comes back at 100%, bam, this team is 100% fine. Anyway. Carson Wentz got a couple of new toys in Mike Wallace 1 year, $2.5 million, and Richard Rodgers for a year. Richard Rodgers, if you don't remember, he caught a touchdown Hail Mary from Aaron Rodgers on Aaron Rodgers' birthday against the Detroit Lions. A huge catch that he had to jump up in the air for. Amazing catch. Great catch by that guy, Richard Rodgers. He is amazing. A great guy. Quality guy getting it done. And it's just... Hey, it is what it is, man. He's just such a good player in terms of quality of play and how he can get stuff done. And then you also got you also got Mike Wallace here. Michael Wallace, he played with the Ravens for a couple of years. Dude was a good deep threat with Big Ben Roethlisberger, and he's a good player altogether. He's a good deep threat, and it's, for Carson Wentz, it's just a new toy on offense. So Michael Bennett, everybody knows the controversy with him, the Super Bowl saga. And then him getting arrested in Vegas, and a lot of controversy, and people didn't like, and I guess the people in Seattle didn't like that he was outspoken. So he got shipped to Philadelphia, because they were like, you know what, this guy is too much controversy. He's not doing a good job, and I don't like it. So Michael Bennett got shipped out. Also, Haloti Ngata, another defensive guy, 1 year, $3 million. So, like I said, Michael Bennett's going to bring an edge to this defense. I feel like it's going to be great for Michael Bennett and good scenery change. And then Haloti Ngata, I remember him last on the Ravens, and he's pretty good on the Ravens and Lions. And he was, a solid defensive guy, so good job for him. Nigel Bradham is a great linebacker. He played a solid role in that Super Bowl run last year. 5 years, $40 million. It was important to re-up him because he's a good linebacker, solid guy. You can replace defensive ends to a certain extent, but linebackers, it's hard sometimes. So now they got Corey Nelson 1 year, $2.25 million. That's a pretty good signing. Linebacker Paul Warlow 1 year. Daryl Worley pissed me off because he got arrested and now he got waived, and now we don't have a cornerback. Because this guy could have easily had a future with this team. But this guy kind of blew it by going out and getting arrested, man. This guy is stupid. This guy is really dumb. He had a future in the NFL, and now he doesn't because he got traded by the Panthers to the Eagles, and now he's gone because we waived him because the dude... Pointless. Anyway, pointless to talk about that guy. Anyway, Eagles had a solid offseason. Good job to them. Carson Wentz getting some pieces, putting it together, trying to mesh it together. Good job. Hats off to you guys. The Eagles had a solid offseason. Good job. A great job to keep the main core together. And watch out, man. They could be primed for another Super Bowl worthy run. So watch out for them. All right. So the next team on this in the NFC East is the Dallas Cowboys. So they didn't really make any major moves until last week when they released Dez Bryant. They said, you know what? We are done with this soap opera. We cannot take this any longer. We just cannot. They said, we're not going to deal with this. We're not going to put up with this. We're done with this. The dude can't catch anything, and the dude sucks. No production for 2 years. They're like, you know what? No way. We are not going to do this. We're just not going to put up with the media stuff that comes with this. Let's just and he didn't even catch the ball. He didn't catch the ball against Green Bay. I don't care what the rule committee says. It's not a catch if you don't go down with the rule. The rules at that time is the rule at that time. So if it doesn't work, suck it up. Dez Bryant needs to, shut the fuck up and sign with the Packers and give him what his future's the great. But, egomaniac, so The Dallas Cowboys went out and got Allen Hurns, 2 years, $12 million to replace him, $6 million a year. Allen Hurns is a decent receiver on the Jacksonville Jaguars, a very good guy. I think he'll fit in fine with the system with Dak Prescott. And a Coney Ely defensive end. So, like I said, the major splash that they made was getting rid of their guy Dez Bryant, who's been there, I guess, ever since, with Tony Romo, one of his favorite targets as well. But I mean, dude, no production for 2 years, man. What are you going to do? Like, are you really going to keep a receiver who hasn't been producing for 2 years still on the roster? I mean, come on. You put Jerry Jones on the hot seat. He wouldn't follow protocol. He was a controversial player. Like, it's just, if you're not worth the controversy, they're not going to keep you in this league. And Dez Bryant wasn't worth the controversy for him. And they were like, you know what? This guy's no production. All right, bro, you're gone. It's terrible, it's not working, and we just can't put up with you anymore. So they were like, all right, you're gone, bye. Which makes sense because, like, as an NFL team, you're not trying to lose more and more money. So it is what it is. Like, deal with it. Like, you're going to have to suck it up because that's just how that works, right? Like, come on, man. Like, this is just sad. Like, terrible situation for him. But if Ezekiel Elliott plays all 16 games this year, look out for this Cowboy team. They are very, very dangerous and very primed to really make some noise this year. They're playing pretty well. So they played pretty well up until that Ezekiel Elliott 6-game suspension. Obviously, they didn't get rocked by the Broncos. But, hey, Broncos are a good defensive team, so don't underestimate them. Now let's move to the Washington Redskins, who really made their move early in free agency. But I guess Alex Smith is going to be that bridge for a couple years before they try to go to the draft to get another quarterback. Or maybe he's just the older guy to, like, sort of help them in the. If this was a move to get them in a playoff push, I don't know if Alex Smith is really that guy in this division to really help the Redskins. And I think it was a terrible decision for them to get rid of Kirk Cousins, because I feel like they should give Kirk Cousins more of a chance. I feel like when the player's not put in a perfect system, not in a good system. Like, John Gruden's an okay coach, but I feel like Alex Smith is really going to struggle with John Gruden, because I feel like John Gruden is just not the guy who's mentally prepared to be a head coach. And I feel like people would agree with me if I told them about this, because, to be honest, have you seen John Gruden? The dude seems so immature, and I just don't feel like the dude is just, not John Gruden, Jay Gruden. But if you've seen this guy, he's just not mature, and he doesn't know what he's doing sometimes, and he's so stuck in his own ways, man. And I just feel like he's going to be too stuck in his own ways, and it's not going to work, and it's just, it's going to just. Anyway, so Alex Smith, obviously, via trade with the Chiefs, and then to back Alex Smith up as the new franchise QB, you got Kevin Hogan, Paul Richardson, 5 years, $40 million. I remember him in the Super Bowl against the Patriots. He played for the Seahawks. He was a good Seahawks receiver. He made a lot of good catches, a lot of good moves against the Patriots. Played really, really well, but he's been meh ever since. Brian Quick, I remember him, another receiving player. 1 year, $880,000. Pernell McPhee. A lot of people don't watch the Chicago Bears during the season, but Pernell McPhee is a really, really good player, and he just earned himself a 1 year deal with the Redskins. Pernell McPhee has the Bears. Good defensive player, great guy. Comes in, does his job, gets a lot of stops on defense. He's very solid, and fundamentally, he plays football the right way, so good for him. He's very explosive. He's not an explosive player. He's not going to blow you off your feet, but he's one of those guys that does all the little fundamentals, right? And then Zach Brown, 3 years, $24 million. And then Orlando Scandrick, cornerback from the Dallas Cowboys. I feel like the Cowboys don't play very well in terms of defensive scheming, so I feel like that's why everyone's leaving the Dallas Cowboys defense. So I feel like the Cowboys defense is not doing themselves any favors by everybody literally leaving. It kind of sucks for the Cowboys because, like, you got nobody left on that defensive core. Damn, nobody wants to be with the Cowboys right now, and that really, really sucks for them. So, what are you gonna do, man? Nobody wants to stay on that court, so, It's just not like, man. And then they got Dustin Hopkins, kicker, 3 years, $6.875 million. So this franchise is headed in a different direction. In terms of what they want to do for the future, maybe they want to plan for the future. But I feel like keeping Kirk Cousins and just franchise tagging him or signing him to the money he wanted probably would have been a better option than giving a 5-year, $75 million deal to Alex Smith, who's already like 33 years old and super old. And I don't think this franchise is headed in a good direction. It's headed in a different direction for sure. And maybe they try to use Alex Smith as a bridge. But right now, I don't see it, man. It's just, I don't see it. Like, come on, man. It's just not something I see, and I don't really want to, I just really don't want to, see that. So, that sucks. So, I just don't think the Redskins are going to do very well in this new system. The New York Giants, they're waiting for the draft, the number 2 pick with Rosen, or apparently they're very high on Barkley. So, I feel like they're going to wait in the draft, and they're going to try and get to do what they want to do, because they know, like, hey, we need to wait. We need to be patient. We need to, we know what we're doing, but we have to, stay patient, see what's going to happen in the draft, because they might be trying to replace Eli Manning. They got running back Jonathan Stewart for 2 years, $6.9 million from the Carolina Panthers. Jonathan Stewart's a great player. He played really, really well, and he's just been lights out running the ball for the Panthers, and now he is headed to the New York Giants as a running back. I don't know if that'll change their mind. It probably won't. If Saquon Barkley is a generational talent, they're definitely going to go for him. Wide receiver Cody Lattimore agreeing to a deal. Cool receiver. The big signing for the Giants here was the offensive tackle Nate Solder to protect either Eli Manning or Josh Rosen. Both of these guys are solid fundamental guys, like I said. This guy's a solid fundamental offensive tackle from the New England Patriots, Bill Belichick system. This guy finally left the Patriots to go somewhere else, and, that's a slap in the face for Bill Belichick, damn. But, Nate Solder's a pretty solid guy. What are you going to do? Great offensive tackles want to go different places and do different things. They can't do anything, so good job for the Giants to secure up Nate Solder for 4 years. And then they got Alec Ogletree via the Rams trade, and Michael Thomas as a safety for 2 years. Odell Beckham Jr. was on the move a couple of weeks ago, for sure. I don't know if that trade talk has died down. I think maybe during the draft there may be some talks going on. But the Patriots are still probably a little bit interested, so we might see Odell Beckham Jr. with a different team Friday night. So you never know. The Giants are trying to build towards something else. So you never really know what's going to happen, and that's just how that goes. So I think in this division, the Eagles did the best job in terms of free agency, going out, getting what they needed. A good job for the Eagles, sort of countering some of the moves. They're obviously going to miss Trey Burton, Patrick Robinson, probably Blunt a little bit. So, but they still got Carson freaking Wentz in this division, and they got a lot of good defensive pieces. So watch out for the reigning Super Bowl champions of this division. The Redskins are probably 4th because of their uncertainty in the division. I would probably take the Cowboys in 3rd probably, and then probably the Giants in 2nd because they sort of stood pat, stayed patient, and did what they need to do. So next, the NFC North, where the biggest move in NFL free agency actually happened. So they went out and got Kirk Cousins, the Minnesota Vikings did. A good move, but I don't think he's going to move the needle. I'm going to explain why. Listen, I watched Case Keenum play last year, and initially when they got Kirk Cousins, I thought, wow, Kirk Cousins in that offense is going to be explosive. And then I went back and I was like, all right, I'm going to study some film on Case Keenum's season. I'm going to see how Kirk Cousins is going to attack other defenses. So when I watched the Case Keenum study, I realized one thing about Case Keenum. He had a spectacular special season. And I feel like Vikings fans are going to expect that out of Kirk Cousins in year 1. And I don't think Kirk Cousins is going to be able to deliver on the level that Case Keenum delivered on last year. Because I feel like Case Keenum had one of those years where he was just so solid and so good that I felt like it was kind of terrible for the Vikings to mess with that core and go get somebody else. Because now I feel like it's an 11-5 or 10-6 team. I just don't feel like with the same core, maybe it's 13-3, but that different core, More different chemistry has to work. I know you got OTAs, you got preseason, but I don't really know how much this team is really gonna be. Like, his team is like now an uncertainty for me, and I just don't think Kirk Cousins moves the needle as a contender. I think if anything, he'll be the exact same thing Case Keenum was, and like, that's what I'm saying. Like, the expectations are too high on Kirk Cousins right now, and I don't think he's gonna live up to those expectations because for where he was drafted, his career right now is a complete success. 20 plus million a year for where he was drafted. He got drafted after RG3. He got drafted after all these players, and he is still etching out a career for himself. So I give him props for that, but I do not think he's gonna live up to that absurd expectation put on him. I mean, Vikings are already expected as Super Bowl contenders. They are Super Bowl contenders, but I don't know if this was the quarterback that really is going to change their world. So, I don't know, but he did sign for 3 years, $84 million. It was the first deal on Wednesday, major deal at least. And then Sheldon Richardson signed for 1 year, $8 million from the New York Jets and the Seattle Seahawks. Last year, he was on the Seahawks after being traded from the Jets, and he's a good, solid defensive player. I really like him. He's a good guy. I don't know why he keeps getting moved, but he's a really good player, and I think he just shows he shows toughness, and he plays with a lot of edge on his back, and I really like this guy because he brings a lot of defensive intensity to this team. And then you got Marcus Sherrills re-upping for 1 year, the return man. He's pretty good. He does what he needs to do and does his job. So good job, Marcus Sherrills. And then Kai Forbath for 1 year. Kai Forbath is a pretty good kicker. He made some clutch kicks last year against the Saints, and just a pretty good guy kicking in terms of the Vikings. So they don't want a Blair Walsh disaster anymore, so good job for them. And then now moving on. So good, like I said, the Vikings, good job getting Kirk Cousins. I don't know if he moves the needle, but they're at least making an effort to try to be Super Bowl contenders, so I'll give them credit for that. I don't know if he'll move the needle. I don't think in my opinion, I don't think he's going to move the needle of Case Keenum's spectacular season. So honestly think the Vikings season is going to be a little underwhelming in a division of Aaron Rodgers and Matthew Stafford, and possibly if Mitchell Trubisky does show up with his weapons. You never know, man. It's just NFL's an ever-changing landscape, so anything can happen here. So you got to be a little careful on the Vikings hype right now. And now, moving on to the Detroit Lions, who they didn't really make any major moves until like the end. They re-upped Zach Zenner. Luke Wilson signed for a 1 year, $2.5 million deal. And then their final major signing was this is what I really like about the Lions organization, okay? They're a good team, and they decided, okay, we need to go get Matthew Stafford some help with a running back, because that has been a huge Achilles heel of this team for many years. Amir Abdullah is good, okay? But Amir Abdullah has and I'm a Nebraska homer, so I hate to say this, but Amir Abdullah has so many injury concerns. I don't know if he's reliable anymore. He's just not that guy that I'm going to look at and be like, hey, Amir Abdullah, come over here and help me run my team and help the running game. I can't look at Amir Abdullah and to be able to trust him as a player, which really sucks because I love Amir Abdullah. He is such a good player in my eyes, but it's just you can't trust him. So they went out and got LeGarrette Blount. They went out and stole LeGarrette Blount from the Philadelphia Eagles and got him on a 1 year, $4.5 million deal. I don't know how they're going to use LeGarrette Blount. They're probably going to switch him in the rotation with Abdullah and Zenner, because obviously if you see LeGarrette Blount, he's only good in select few runs. Like, he's very limited in when he runs. Even with the Eagles, like, he didn't play a big role until like later in the season, later in the playoffs when they needed his experience. So maybe he won't play until later in the season, later in the playoffs. But he has to be used at like a minimal, part so that he can have enough energy and he can give good production. So the Detroit Lions, a nice slam dunk at running back, and they might try to address something in the draft. They were making a playoff push late in the year. Good job, good on them. Go out and get Matthew Stafford some sort of help him out, and sort of assessing the team. So good on them, good on them to sort of go out and do that. So now moving to the cream of the crop, the Green Bay Packers also did Aaron Rodgers a huge solid by getting him a little bit of offensive help. They didn't make too many big moves before that. They traded for quarterback DeShone Kizer to back him up. With Mike McCarthy, he might actually succeed. Obviously, Brett Hundley did not succeed with the Packers. He played well. He put up good numbers, but they couldn't win games, man, because their defense couldn't hold them off the field, and they blamed it all on Brett Hundley. I think Brett Hundley's morale probably took a little bit of a dip. I mean, it happens, man. It happens to people. Like, their morale takes dips, and they don't have confidence in themselves, and they can't play good, and it just happens. So, what are you going to do? So, and then they got Tramon Williams, cornerback, for 2 years, back on the team. And then they got a defensive guy in Muhammad Wilkerson. Good job for them to get Muhammad Wilkerson on a 1 year, $15 million deal. He was a great defensive player from the Jets. He really knows how to rush the passer and play methodically. So good on the Packers to sort of get him aside. Mike Daniels, who's also a big contract guy. So we'll see how that works with that combination, but I think it's been very explosive. I think they're going to both be rushing the quarterback at high level speeds. But the big move for the Green Bay Packers, I felt like, was when they went and got Jimmy Graham for 3 years and $30 million on the offensive side of the ball, because Jimmy Graham is one of those players which I felt like, wow, this guy is going to be a future star. Look at this guy. He's playing so well. And Jimmy Graham is just, I mean, obviously in Seattle, like, it didn't work out. But in New Orleans with Drew Brees, he took off. And now he has another star quarterback. Obviously, Russell Wilson was a star quarterback, but I guess Russell Wilson didn't really know how to optimize him. Aaron Rodgers is going to know how to optimize Jimmy Graham in the perfect way, and it's just going to be a marriage because they're both amazing. And I feel like they're both going to be amazing together. It's such a good move for this GM to put him aside Aaron Rodgers and Jimmy Graham. I think it'll be very explosive. This guy passed to Richard freaking Rodgers. Imagine this guy passing. Oh my goodness, man. This is just going to be a crazy combination. I cannot wait for these two to get on the football field and start throwing balls to each other, because it is going to be great to see them on the field together. And it's going to be explosive. I cannot wait to see this happen, and I really hope this does not turn into a dud. So the team that made the most moves in this division are the Chicago Bears. And I like this. They saw that they needed to they thought, okay, so we'll make some moves in the draft, and then we'll make some moves in free agency. We'll mix and mesh a little bit so we can try and get Trubisky some pieces and try to see if we can build on his season and try to like it. So they got rid of Mike Glennon. They said, you know what, Mike Glennon, you're gone. The bridge is gone. We're going to burn the bridge, and we're going to give you, Mike Glennon, we're going to give you a fair shot this time, because we're going to see what you're made of this year. So to back him up, they brought in Chase Daniel, 2 years, $10 million. Chase Daniel's a solid guy to back up Mitchell Trubisky. Very good guy. Obviously backing up the Chiefs, and I think he was a backup on the Eagles for a couple of years with Doug Peterson. And then they got Allen Robinson and Taylor Gabriel, two wide receiver pieces. Allen Robinson got 3 years, $42 million. Taylor Gabriel got 4 years, $26 million. Allen Robinson, obviously last year, was a good piece on the Jaguars as a receiver for Blake Bortles and their run to the AFC Championship game where they nearly knocked off the Patriots with their defense. And Taylor Gabriel was a huge part of that Kyle Shanahan, Matt Ryan offense. They had their Super Bowl run, and he was very maximizing that run. So Taylor Gabriel is a very solid player, very fast player, and I think he's going to really, really benefit from having Trubisky as quarterback, and Allen Robinson is going to get his production in as well. The move that really I didn't like as an Eagles fan, but I liked to see him get a good contract, was Trey Burton. I knew he was going to leave because there's no way the Eagles could have paid him $8 million a year. He outperformed last year. He was obviously the guy who threw the touchdown on the Philly special to Nick Foles, the ball back to Nick Foles. Great play design by Doug Peterson, by the way. But good job. Trey Burton had to go out, get his money, and he did. So, good signing, tight end, good piece for Mitchell Trubisky. Like I said, another weapon. And then on the defensive side, they went out two cornerbacks, signed Prince Amukamara 3 years, $27 million, and Kyle Fuller 4 years, $56 million. So good job on the defensive side as well. And then they got themselves a kicker, Cody Parkey, 4 years, $15 million, who was on the Dolphins last year. But I guess the Dolphins were like, we're not re-signing him. Kyle Fuller's a good piece, good young piece, plays really, really well. Shuts him down. And Prince Amukamara, they want a veteran presence in the locker room. So That was probably why that happened. Like I said, I was sad to see Trey Burton go, but it is what it is. Like I said, the Bears mix and meshed. They got rid of John Fox, and they start welcoming in a new era, trying to get young players and try to develop them and see what they can get out of the draft as well. So it's good to see the Chicago Bears sort of trying to build the team and be like, hey, this is what we need to do, and this is how we need to do it. So good to see the Chicago Bears acknowledging some of their weaknesses and trying to go out and fix them. So, in the NFC North, I think the Chicago Bears obviously won because they made so many good moves, so many great moves, honestly, and I think it's just going to help them in the future with these moves. You're not going to see the results right away. Like, the results, not right away. But you will see it over time. You'll see it over time. The Bears will be like that team methodically. They'll come out, they'll play well, and they'll shock everybody. And then you got the Green Bay Packers going out getting offensive weapons and playing great. I think with Jimmy Graham, they're really going to thrive next year, so that's why I put them at 2. Like I said, they're a team that I feel like with Aaron Rodgers healthy, they will be one virtually unstoppable on offense, and now with Jimmy Graham. Third is Vikings, because Kirk Cousins doesn't really move the needle for me, but he's still a great player. Just doesn't move the needle. Case Keenum had a special season. Watch the film of Case Keenum's season last year if you don't believe me. And then at the end, I put the Detroit Lions, had one major signing, but nothing really else much to go. So now I'm going to move to one of the divisions that nothing really happened here because most of the teams are already set in terms of the future, and most teams are already set in terms of most of their positions. And so it's just a tough division, so whoever comes out, comes out. So I'm going to move to the NFC South now because, that's a pretty good division. Pretty competitive-ass division, the NFC South is. So, like I said, NFC South is a competitive division, and all of these teams are mostly set at most of their positions. So we're going to start off with the NFC South, like I said. We're going to start off with the New Orleans Saints, who had a great season, okay? They drafted really well. Alvin Kamara, Marcus Williams, this team is a beast. I mean, honestly, if they beat the Vikings, that one play, if Stephon Diggs does not catch that ball, that is a touchdown the other way, and the New Orleans Saints probably go to the Super Bowl and win it all, because that is just how good these New Orleans Saints are. I mean, come on. The Saints are one of the best teams in the league right now, and everybody knows they're one of the best teams in the league right now. I mean, come on. They're playing so great, high-level football, and it's just happening. So at the beginning of free agency, I guess there was a little controversy with Drew Brees, even re-up or not, but nothing there. Drew Brees re-up, 2 years, $50 million. They got their fullback, Zach Line back for 2 years. Drew Brees, 2 years, $50 million. Zach Line, 2 years. Benjamin Watson for a year. Then they got wide receiver Cameron Meredith, 2 years, $10 million. Defensive end Alex Okafor to help that defensive side a little bit. Improved, 2 years, $10 million, and Demario Davis for 2 years, $24 million. The big signing for them was Patrick Robinson from the Philadelphia Eagles. If you watch the playoff games, Patrick Robinson made the big play against the Atlanta Falcons on Julio Jones on that 4th and goal. Huge stop there, and then he turned the Vikings game as well when he had the pick 6 on Case Keenum. Basically turned the momentum, and the Philadelphia Eagles started rolling right after that game, after that point in the Vikings game. So Patrick Robinson is one of those special players who can just make the game different by his playmaking ability. So that's what I love the most about him, and he's such a great player because of what he does in that, and that's what I love about him, man. He's just great in terms of how he gets that done. And, I mean, Patrick Robinson, obviously they got Marcus Williams. They got a lot of good pieces already. And they're adding Patrick Robinson to that. And Alvin Kamara, Marcus Williams, and they draft well. And there's another draft coming up. Woo! I'm saying, man, look out for these New Orleans Saints. They are looking dangerous this year, and it does not look good for the other teams in the NFL. They are a true Super Bowl contender, man. Just look out for them. They are going to be crazy. Anyway, moving to the Carolina Panthers. Not really any moves there. Darryl Worley out. They got Torrey Smith in. Old guy. I don't know how Torrey Smith's really going to do. With Carson Wentz, he played pretty well. And maybe he's a system guy. Maybe he does play well with Cam. I don't know how he's going to do it. I don't think he's going to do that well. They like what they saw from Julius Peppers. They re-upped him for a 1 year, $5 million. And then they went out and got Dontari Poe defensive tackle. He does a lot of fun things on defense, and he, gets the stops, does everything. So they were like, all right, let's go get this guy from the Kansas City Chiefs on a 3-year, $27 million deal. Dontari Poe is a very solid player. Carolina is one of those teams where they're solid, but sometimes they lack the consistency to win too much, and sometimes they just can't put the pieces together. They were very close in that playoff game against the Saints. And what I mean by consistency is like one game they'll play really, really well, and then the next game they'll play really, really bad, and then the one game they'll play really, really good. They have all the pieces necessary for a Super Bowl run. Luke Kuechly, Thomas Davis on defense. They don't have any cornerbacks. Ever since they lost Josh Norman, the cornerbacks have been really weird and bad, so they need to try to draft some cornerbacks. Cam Newton on the offensive end. Obviously, some of the receivers, maybe that's why they got Torrey Smith. Running back, they lost Jonathan Stewart, so I don't really know how this team's outlook is going to be. Obviously, they can't put too much on Cam Newton's back, and the offensive line isn't really protecting too well. So they need to address some things in the draft, offensive line, receivers, and cornerbacks. And if they can sort of put the pieces together, and Cam Newton can have that season that he had a couple years ago when they went 15-1, this Carolina team can be dangerous. But in this free agency, they didn't really do anything. They just sort of stood pat because they realized, hey, we got a lot of good pieces, so let's not mess with the chemistry. And same thing with the Atlanta Falcons. They got a lot of good pieces. That one play for them. That one play against the Philadelphia Eagles, if they get it, they have a shot at the Super Bowl against the Minnesota Vikings, and I feel like they would have won that game because they have more playoff experience. So they had one play where they could have knocked down the eventual champs, and it was a terrible play design by that offensive coordinator. Like, I don't know why he drew up that play. That was such a bad play call, former USC coach guy, but dude put up a terrible play call, and it didn't work, and it obviously didn't work, and they lost. So, come on, man. That's just terrible. It was a terrible play call, but they didn't do much in free agency. Like I said, they got Logan Paulson for 1 year. And like I said, I trust Matt Ryan and this new Dan Quinn and the coach. So I think they'll have a good bounce back year. And don't be surprised if you see this team in a Super Bowl again, or a Super Bowl contender. They're all contender in this NFC. They're a very good team. If they put the piece together, and if they also find a way to play consistently, I feel like with Kyle Shanahan, they had that system. So when Kyle Shanahan left, they got a little screwed. So I feel like once they find that system again, if they get hot, look out, man. This Atlanta team, whoa, this division is the toughest division, too. 3 out of 6 of the NFL playoff teams came out of this division. That is tough. So, the team that made the most moves out of anybody in this division was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And I like this because they saw that they needed to get some help on defense, and they went out and they got it. So first, let's go over the non-major signings. Ryan Fitzpatrick re-upped for 1 year, $3.3 million. Will Clark on the defensive end, 1 year, $883,000. That was a backup. Ben Allen, 3 years, $15 million. Chandler Catanzaro, kicker. I don't really like the way he kicks. He kind of kicks a little slanted sometimes, sort of misses, and the way he kicks, some angles won't work for him too well. 3 years, $4.57 million, which I don't know, man. Chandler Catanzaro, I don't really know about him, man. He's just, I don't trust him that much. But hey, we'll see what happens. So, on the offensive side, they did sign one good piece, Cameron Brate. Although they have the other Alabama piece, O.J. Howard, they may also want to play Cameron Brate as well, because Cameron Brate has been a good weapon for Jameis Winston. It was good to get him to re-up. Obviously, Fitzpatrick re-upped on the offensive end for 1 year, $3.3 million. But it's good to see Cameron Brate re-up here for 6 years, $41 million, and it's good because, like I said, he's one of Jameis Winston's best weapons. So for him to re-up and sort of build that chemistry with the team and with Jameis, and sort of go around the offense and sort of learn everything and sort of be able to be that guy who's consistent in the locker room, that's good for them, and that's good for the Buccaneers in terms of chemistry, because right now I feel like that's one of the other things to do, because they're very inexperienced, so they lack that chemistry sometimes, and I think this will help that team chemistry a little bit. Obviously, Jameis Winston giving weird pregame speeches isn't going to really help the chemistry, but hey, it is what it is, and I feel like the Buccaneers are really starting to make moves, and a good job on the offensive end. So now, moving to the major signings on the defensive end. They traded for Jason Pierre-Paul from the New York Giants, comes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Really dumb move for the New York Giants, but I guess they're maybe trying to get younger. So, good job for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to go pick him up. He's a good defensive presence, although he doesn't really have a hand. Alvin Mitz, but, whatever. It's cool. He's still a good defensive presence, and he works very, very well. So I like Jason Pierre-Paul and what he does, what he brings to the table on the defensive end, as a defensive end, and Vinny Curry as well on that side, 3 years, $27 million, to try and help Gerald McCoy, defensive tackle. So the pressure on the quarterback is going to be high this year, which is good because I feel like Gerald McCoy was the only guy on that defense, and now they're sort of building it. They're getting 2 defensive ends on that side to help him out and sort of shoulder the weight on defense and not, put everything on one guy. And sort of realize, this is what I like about the Buccaneers. They saw what was flawed in their team, and they said, hey, let's go out and let's go help Jameis by getting pieces on the other side of the ball to try and help him on the offensive side of the ball and get him the ball more. So that's just what Tampa Bay did. They acknowledged their weakness, and they went out and they're trying to correct it. So that's what I like about Tampa Bay, what they're doing this offseason. They also went out and got Brent Grimes. Obviously, the reason he hasn't get to a 1 year, $7 million contract, obviously the reason he hasn't got signed is because his wife talks a lot of crap on Twitter, and if you're not a player, if you're not a good enough player to where you can withstand, the Twitter talk, then they're just not going to re-sign you. And I feel like his wife kind of hurt him. So, that's just how that works. Brent Grimes is a good cornerback. He can shut people down. He can play pretty well. So, like I said, I like the Buccaneers' offseason. They went out, addressed some of their defensive stuff, and they're probably defensive weaknesses, and they'll also probably go in the draft looking at some defense and probably go after maybe Minkah Fitzpatrick if possible, or go after someone that they need on defense, Bradley Chubb maybe even. So, like I said, in this NFC South, I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are that team that won in terms of moves. Nobody else did anything really. So I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers made a lot of good defensive moves. I don't think this is really going to move the needle for them unless Jameis Winston decides to step up and play better on offense. I think it's more on the offense now, and it's time to put the pressure on Jameis Winston and see what he can do. So let's move to the final division in the free agency signings. And this is where some of the major signings happened. The NFC West, the last division in the NFL and in this analysis. Oh, let's start with the Los Angeles Rams. They made the biggest moves that a contender can make in this offseason. You know what they did? They did not stay packed at all. They went out, got Marcus Peters, a star cornerback. Dude, obviously he has some attitude problems, and that is why he got traded. But the dude, when he gets on the football field, he's one of the best young cornerbacks in the league. And I think the Chiefs made a mistake by getting rid of him. Obviously for attitude problems, he threw a flag in the crowd, almost got ejected. Dude just has some attitude issues on the field, and dude kind of loses his temper. And the dude, he's just not himself on the field sometimes. He gets kind of touchy and emotional, and it's just not, the best for them. So that's just how that works. And they were like, you know what? We are not putting up with this, and we're not going to put up with your bullshit. We're just going to, we can let you go. And they did. The Chiefs are like, you know what? Bye-bye. It's a season of bye-byes, and we're going to send you bye-bye to the Rams. And now the Rams got him and Aqib Talib from the Broncos. Aqib Talib was a move for them to clear up some cap space for the Broncos. And John Elway didn't really like Aqib Talib. I guess Aqib Talib was really moving team for team. And I guess coming back to the Broncos, I don't know if it really helped John Elway in this situation. So it was like, all right, bye-bye, Aqib Talib. You're out of this defense. Which is another mistake, because I feel like Aqib Talib is a really good player. And sending him to the Rams, now you got Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib on the side. But another huge signing they just kept going. So Ndamukong Suh got released, and they went out and got Ndamukong Suh for a 1 year, $14 million deal. And they got him to come to LA. So now Ndamukong Suh is on the way to help that already powered up defensive charge. Now you got Ndamukong Suh and Aaron Donald, and you'd be throwing to Marcus Peters or Aqib Talib. Whew! That is one defensive unit for the Los Angeles Rams. Their biggest flaw was probably defense, and they went out and they addressed it. Getting Ndamukong Suh, who's a very tough player, one of the best defensive tackles in the game, and what a great job. Him and Donald are going to play so well together, and Marcus Peters and Aqib Talib are going to make a great secondary, shut down secondary. Sean McVay did a really good job with this team last year, turning them around 11-5. No one's going to be surprised by them anymore. Everyone's going to get the film on Goff and Gurley, and everyone's going to, be able to sort of put a stop on offense. But now that the defensive end is kind of strong too, this team is very balanced, and I think Sean McVay is gonna do a very good job. Offensive Wiz is gonna do a good job by putting the keys of the defense in the hand of Wade Phillips. Wade Phillips is one of the defensive whizzes in this league and one of the best defensive minds, and he's gonna do what he's gonna do to get this team back to Super Bowl, and they're basically Super Bowl contenders. But the last major move they made was with the Patriots when they traded their first-round draft pick for Brandon Cooks. Brandon Cooks is a really good player. I guess the Patriots didn't want to pay him. Plus, he got knocked out a little bit. Brandon Cooks making up for Sammy Watkins. Woo! Brandon Cooks is a really good receiver. I think Bill Belichick is really going to regret that move. That is just not a move you make at all. Ugh. Terrible, 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 man. Brandon Cooks is such a good player, and he let him go. Oh, the Rams' offense and defense are gonna be splashy next year, man. People saying the Rams are underrated or overrated. Get out of here, man. So many moves, man. These Rams, whoo. They basically won free agency with all of those moves. I'm telling you, man, these Rams are going to be crazy Super Bowl contenders. Okay, so now moving on to the Seattle Seahawks. They didn't do shit, okay? Like, they signed some guys, but they literally lost their entire defense. Richard Sherman went bye-bye to the 49ers. Michael Bennett went bye-bye. Earl Thomas is requesting a bye-bye. Cam Chancellor doesn't give a shit. Nobody really cares anymore. And so here's who they got. They got two backup quarterbacks. What a joke. Look at who they got. Austin Davis agrees to deal. Stephen Morris agrees. And you know what's funny? They blew off Kaepernick because of the anthem protest. They said, all right, Kaepernick, you can come. And then they short-sighted him by saying, oh, sorry, you're not on the team anymore because we don't want guys who do anthem protests. Really? This is the problem, man. This is why Seattle is not a dynasty anymore. That's sad. That's sad. And then they signed running back Mike Davis to a year. Mike Davis. Ed Dixon, he hasn't really been doing much in his career, to be honest. 3 years, $14 million. Yeah, okay, whatever. DJ Fluker, offensive tackle. This one might help them because they need offensive tackles. Ooh, dear Lord. Russell Wilson is running for his life in that pocket. Jesus. Markevius Mingo, 2 years, $6.8 million. And then they signed a kicker because Blair Walsh kept missing everything last year. But I mean, Stephen Janikowski is coming off a year of injuries. I don't know how you're really going to, like, sit there and be like, hey, Stephen Janikowski, are you reliable? Like, I don't know how much you can really rely on Janikowski, especially with his unique kicking style. So, have fun with that. I mean, jeez, the Seahawks are cracking me up, man. Jeez. Anyway, let's move to the Arizona Cardinals, who I guess they're not really going to make a move for a draft pick in the top 10 because they should probably go get Lamar Jackson or Rosen or Allen, or they're probably going to be stuck with the guy they signed. Mike Glennon, 2 years, $8 million. He's a backup. They got him for the Chicago Bears. Yeah, but the Chicago Bears were so happy to unload him. And then Sam Bradford, $2 million for $40 million for 2 years. Oh, dear Lord. I feel so bad for Larry Fitzgerald, man. The Cardinals are that team where they've been rebuilding, and they just, like, they're trying to rebuild. There's no Bruce Arians, and they're trying to be better on the offensive end. But dear God, help this team. Like, they're the only team in the NFC without a quarterback right now. Sam Bradford is not a quarterback. If you say Sam Bradford is a quarterback, I will laugh in your face. That is sad. Do not call Sam Bradford a quarterback. Please. Please. Jeez. These teams in the NFL, man, they're killing me. They're killing me. Anyway, the last team in free agency and the best, and one of the teams that didn't really do much with any of their money, which I expected them to, because they're a team that should have invested a little bit more money into their stuff. But hey, it is what it is. What are you gonna do? So anyway, the San Francisco 49ers get Jerick McKinnon running back from the Minnesota Vikings in their run for the Super Bowl last year, 4 years, $30 million. It's a good deal because they just lost Carlos Hyde, which they should have re-upped him. But they lost Carlos Hyde, so they need a guy to run the ball for him, and that's where they can get that, or they could probably get in the draft. But I think they're going to go after Bradley Chubb or Minka Fitzpatrick or someone on the defensive end because they got a lot of money in this offseason. So good job getting Jake McKinnon, and Jeff Locke, punter, agrees to a deal. I don't really, you got Andy Lee, you don't really need Jeff Locke. Okay, so the major signing for the 49ers here, don't put me on a sorry-ass receiver like Crabtree, and that's what you're going to get. Yeah, there's so much history. And Richard Sherman, coming off his Achilles tear, is going to the San Francisco 49ers for a 3-year, $21.15 million deal. Wow. Who saw that coming? Damn. A couple of years ago, man, even like 2 years ago, you could say Richard Sherman was probably the best corner. And then he got reduced and reduced and reduced. And now he's a guy coming off his Achilles tear. Damn, man. That, ooh. God, man, that is just terrible. What a punk bitch. What a punk bitch move by the Seahawks, sorry, not Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman's a great player, and I'm just happy that, he found a situation for himself. So, good job for Richard Sherman to find that situation and get that deal that he needed, and that's a good signing for the 49ers because they could resurrect Richard Sherman's career. So, that is the free agency evaluation for all 32 teams, major signings. The Patriots, they lost, overall recap, the Patriots lost a lot of key pieces, but kept their pieces in Belichick way. The Browns trying to make some moves, trying to get into NFL relevancy. The Jaguars sort of lost a little bit of the core. The Titans are started building towards the future. Chiefs going towards the future as well. Raiders trying to get in that John Gruden groove. The Broncos trying to get a quarterback to try to compete in that AFC West. The Eagles, countering some of their moves, they will hurt a little bit in the beginning of the year, but I think they'll adapt later on. The Cowboys are still a big threat. The Redskins, I don't know about them. Giants, I don't know much about them either. It depends on the draft. Saints, the NFC South is going to be as competitive as ever. NFC North, that's very uncertain on how these pieces are all going to work together. The Rams, looking like Super Bowl contenders, and the 49ers, maybe a team in the rise, maybe a 7-9 team. I just don't see playoffs this year for that 49ers team. NFC's too tough. So, my overall free agency rankings, the top 10 teams that I think really won and got good grades. A+, Los Angeles Rams, the four players they got, great offense, great upgrades, and great job that they did there. So good job for the Los Angeles Rams. They get the number 1 slot. Number 2 goes to the Chicago Bears. Like I said, they're mixing and meshing, but they got some good pieces to start the team rebuild. So good job for the Chicago Bears. Cleveland Browns, they got rid of a lot of unnecessary pieces, and they added some good pieces. And they're looking towards the draft, Sam Darnold or Josh Rosen to try and build. Minnesota Vikings, they got some good pieces. Kirk Cousins, they did a good job of keeping the team tacked and keeping themselves as a Super Bowl contender. 5 is the Tennessee Titans. They did a good job of building for the future as well and helping themselves sort of win games in the regular season. 6 is Tampa Bay Buccaneers, upgrading that defensive side of the ball and making them sort of help themselves look around and sort of get their defensive weaknesses out of the way and do their job. 7 is the Green Bay Packers. Jimmy Graham doing a really, really good job. And that offensive side of that ball playing really, really well. And I think it's going to be explosive. 8 is Denver Broncos getting Case Keenum on board and getting a quarterback who had a really special season last year with good receivers also on the Broncos and a great defense set up. Case Keenum could be set up for yet another 13-3 season with the Denver Broncos. Probably not, but hey, you never know. 9 is the New York Jets. They mix and mesh as well. Got a draft pick, and they played solid at 5-11 last year, and they could, you never know, man. They could take that leap into the playoffs if they beat some of those teams that they, were close with this year. Philadelphia Eagles at 10. They counter some of their moves. They're obviously going to hurt a little bit at the at the beginning of the year, but I think they'll adapt and adjust, and I think their pieces will work well together. So, the winner of free agency are the Los Angeles Rams, and I just gave you my top 10, and that is NFL free agency for you, free agency primer, and I will give you an NFL draft primer, an NFL 2018 schedule primer coming soon. NFL draft primer will come before Friday night next weekend. So we'll see what happens. NFL free agency, those are all the moves by all 32 teams and all divisions and all complete breakdown. So there you go, guys. And I will work on the NFL draft, and I will work on writing material for the NFL draft 2018 next week for the preview next year. Next week preview, and I'll also be working towards the NFL schedule preview and the projections of teams and how I think teams will do. So look out for that, guys. NFL offseason. We won't see many NFL storylines, obviously, so it'll be single videos like this that'll be very long, because I'll also be working on NBA playoffs, and I'll also be trying to cover other stuff as well. So hang with me, and we'll see what happens here. But NFL free agency, that's the breakdown, and that's the evaluation for you guys. Thank you so much for sticking with this video for about an hour. Whew.